Thank you, Dan. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there anything else that we need to add today? Okay,
Mr. Chair, move for approval of the agenda as presented.
thank you.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have an agenda. On to the minutes of November 9th. Do you guys have a chance to review those?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from November 9th. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, on to the fiscal year 23 second quarter report. Lynn, I assume that you're going to walk us through this.
Yes, sir, will do. All right, so y'all have a copy of the financial report in front of you, or does Dan? Great. Okay, as long as Dan can bring it up. So
It's so
yeah.
small on the screen. I've got it here. I don't know. Randy, do you have it accessible?
I'm having issues, so probably not, but we'll be fine. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead and share it. Then, yeah, better than nothing.
Okay. All right, so for the second quarter ending December 2022, 6 months into the year, we have received 44% of our budgeted revenue and expended 45% with expenditures. I'll take you through a few of the revenue categories, and Jeff, please chime in anytime. For the AOP program, it's not unusual to receive the 78% at this point in time. It's typically received the majority at the early onset of the fiscal year. We do expect to receive the balance as well. For NOC major and minor, the notice of construction, we've received, a smaller amount of activity. With the NOC program, that's a program that you really have to, it's a guessing game. What are your sources going to be changing out in terms of equipment or making, or there's going to be a new plant or boiler, asphalt plant or generators. You don't know. So we look at history to determine what the current year is going to bring in. As you can see, we did not receive as many expected applications as for the first 6 months. And, we'll see how the remaining 6 months go. For the notice of intent, NOI, lo and behold, we received twice our budget. So again, that's a small program that does not expect a lot of revenue. The annual registration, we received all of our funding for the year. And we continue to receive smaller, or we continue to receive some sources paying that either our inspector is located or they came in during the fiscal year. So, and that's not unusual as well. For assessment revenue, we've received actually 0 through December 31 because the billings don't go out until after our January 1.
I'm sorry, Lynn, I don't know why I can't remember what assessments are, but are we pretty sure that is going to come in as budgeted? That's not like
Yes, a good question. Yes.
Only if you pay your bills.
right. That's
My next addition to the assessment line is in January, we've already received 87% of the assessments. And into February, we received another close to 9%. So to answer your question, yes, sir, we will receive it, and likely by the end of February.
The counties and the cities are good for it.
right. That's what I thought it was. Just the county, and yeah, gotcha. Our membership, basically.
Right. Roughly 87 cents.
87.5
Yeah,
cents.
a little less than 88 cents per person per year.
Yeah, pretty good deal.
Yeah, we put more into the arts.
All right.
Air and art.
Well,
Arts,
sorry.
air.
It's a good- I like that comparison.
Okay, yeah, that's a good comparison. All right, well, moving on to our ecology oversight. As y'all know, that is a fee that is assessed to our major sources, the 11 major sources, and that is to assist ecology in their oversight of the statewide Title V program. So they have staff that conduct administrative task that is required in law. And we have, as of February 7th, yesterday, received, I believe, 92%. So, and that's a fee that is passed directly on to Department of Ecology. ORCAA retains 0. We help them collect their funds. For our asbestos, we're on target. We've collected, 50%. Again, it's like NOC asbestos. You don't know how many folks are going to be either rehabbing their houses or commercial space, or we're actually in there as well when we had to conduct our, a test of before we removed our flooring next door. And so we have to pay our fees too, so.
Yeah, I'll say that with the addition of Bryson Downs, our most recent inspector, who's came to us with asbestos experience, he's been really working to kind of reinvigorate and add some new life to our asbestos program. So
Good.
but nice to see that we're right on track there in terms of our budget.
Definitely, agreed. We have the knowledge, and it's nice to have that right off the bat, day one. Land clearing, well, I don't have to say much there. We're definitely having folks apply for their land clearing permits. That's good. Getting the word out too is helpful. We've received 63% of the budgeted amount. For our wood stove education grant, that is a reimbursement basis, and it's requested on a quarterly basis with Department of Ecology. We did receive our next quarter reimbursement already, so again, that's always behind the fact, but we will meet our budgeted amount of $10,682. That's a contract we have with Ecology. We typically run out of funds during the third quarter. The wood smoke reduction grant. We budgeted 170, and that was basically the balance of our 2-year contract. We're in our 2-year contract with Ecology. We anticipate expending the balance of our wood smoke reduction grant. Dan's doing a fabulous job talking with our installers, the HVAC vendors, and in fact, just yesterday, I provided a accounts payable run to Jeff for 8,800. In the afternoon, I received 6 more apps from Dan Nelson, and so it's moving along, and we're spending the funds, and it's going to where it should.
Yep, changing out a lot of old uncertified wood stoves.
Correct.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yes, sir.
Maybe it's for Dan, but does that allow portions of heat pumps or only the ductless split systems?
It allows both.
It allows heat
Yes.
pumps. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Thank
yeah, yeah, both the ducted and the ductless.
you. Okay, great.
Good question. Ecology.
Everybody's talking about heat pumps and I'm like,
Yeah.
I barely understand
yeah.
the difference. So I'm trying to.
Yeah. Well, they're all the rage now, which is good.
Yeah, right, for sure. Okay, thank you.
For our ecology monitor and the PM 2.5, again, it's a contract we have with Department of Ecology. It's a 5-year contract. We're in our 4th year right now. We do reach our $13,500 that assist in the monitoring activities and administrative services that we conduct for the 3 sites. For our federal program, the Chica Peak, the contract we have directly with EPA, we always get our $86,077, and we always expend it as well. And that's for the maintenance and operations of Chica Peak in Nia Bay. We're going to be submitting our 4-year proposal to EPA in the next couple of weeks. And Odell has completed her work plan, and now I just have to do the budget pieces and then submit it through our grants.gov portal. So
And that's for the next
for the
budget
next 4
cycle.
years, starting April 1, 2023. It's nice. It used to be a 2-year, and there is a lot of administrative work that goes into it as well. And so the EPA changing it into a 4-year makes it an easier transition.
Yeah, we've got a great grant manager at the EPA that when works closely.
Wonderful.
She makes.
Christina Miller,
So that amount is a quarter worth?
that's a year. $86,077 is an annual amount allocated to Chica Peak through EPA.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were on the ARP grant.
Oh, we're going there next.
Okay, I was trying to figure out.
They
Perfect. Thank you.
do, they are connected for sure. The American Rescue Plan grant with EPA is a one-time, non-competitive proposal that we submitted to EPA for the securing a new monitoring site and a purchase of a piece of equipment. This is, Odell's just ecstatic about this. This is a good opportunity for us to make needed upgrades at the Chica Peak.
And that grant was submitted in collaboration with the ORCAA tribe, so.
So we're working with a few parties in that effort. For the court, federal and state, that's our 2-year proposal we have with ecology. And obviously it's a mix of federal and state dollars. And we will hit our mark there in terms of retrieving and getting reimbursed for our full grants. For the FSEC, the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, this is a reimbursement basis contract where the staff, mostly engineering and compliance, conduct the work and we request reimbursement. Mark Gooden, our professional engineer, has been working on some permit deviations and modifications. He's put a lot of time in the end of January and February, and he continues to wrap up that permit. It's a Title V program, a permit.
For the Grays Harbor Energy Facility there at the Setsup Development Park in Grays Harbor.
For our penalties, through December 31, we received almost $20,000. If I would have put January in here, you would have seen that grow by $130,000+. So we've already exceeded our annual budget. I'll let Jeff elaborate on where those additional funds are coming from on our couple sources.
Yeah, I mean, well, there are a number of things. I mean, we had we actually issued quite a few notices of violation for frankly not paying their registration fees. I mean, it was bizarre. I mean, we had Safeways, we had a variety of just registration facilities that didn't pay. Despite
100, I think
it was 8 or 80. It was a lot, a ton of paperwork to process. But so that was sort of I would say one category. And then we've also had, as I think I've shared, we've got some of our major sources that we're having some real compliance issues with, and we're working with them closely to get them back into compliance. Yeah, because I mean, we don't want to. It's easier for us, it's better for them if they're operating within their permit limits. And so, but when they don't, then we work with them to get back into compliance. So, but in terms of, so I think the blip that we had in January that's not reflected here, but was in what Lynn said, was a combination of, I think some of those companies that had been delinquent on paying the registration finally paid, but then we also did have, I think, a couple relatively large penalties that were paid by one of our Title V sources. So,
do you have any sense why that number is so big of people not paying? Like, was it multiple years or just one time?
1 year.
it was 1 year.
They didn't get their notice?
No, they got their notice, and Debbie worked incredibly hard to track them down. I don't know, Debbie, if you want to jump in here with, because again, you're the one that was working with the folks at Safeway and PetroCard and others so I don't know. I mean, again, all of these are processed through one office, but so they had really a complete breakdown at the Safeway processing facility, and then also the PetroCard, I think, were the two big ones. But yeah, it's a corporate thing. I think that's a good way to characterize it. I don't know, anything else to add, Debbie?
I would just say that, I did do my due diligence, and, I contacted them directly, and they both the Safeway and the PetroCard, which were my two largest, stated they would pay. And, I gave them another additional 2 weeks, I think it was, even after that, and still didn't receive anything. So we had to move forward.
Yeah, so so I think they all paid at this point, Debbie, for the most
They
part.
paid registration. We still have a couple outstanding NOV fees,
Yes.
but registration definitely has been paid.
Okay.
Mhm. Any other questions before we move on?
I'm sorry, Lynn, could you restate? I mean, I of course, we don't want to make our money with violations if
Oh,
possible.
heavens no.
What did
No.
you say it was up to? Like,
We received about 130,000 in the month of January.
holy cramola, that is, yeah, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
And we're gonna fill the whole contingency budget item this year, I'm sure of it, based on my conversations with.
Yeah, we've got assessed, frankly, assessed penalties over $1 million. Again, I'm not sure what we're gonna, we probably don't know what we're gonna be collecting, but we've got some very large outstanding penalties that have been assessed that we're moving towards resolution. But it's gonna take a lot of time, compliance, engineering, and my time. But yeah, and again, it's not where we want to be, but it's we are. And we'll want to have some conversations with the board then, again, about that money and what's, you know, what are the appropriate uses for those funds that we have. So I think conversations to come on that once we know more about the timing and what the
And the
amounts that we're talking
collection,
about and all of that.
because we don't know if we'll even get it in this fiscal year.
Exactly,
The
exactly.
timing is unknown and the dollar amount is unknown
Yes.
too.
Do you have a sense at this point if, oh, sorry, Greg, I'm having trouble seeing you and I'm being a bad committee member. Is it okay?
No,
if I
no,
ask
no, please. This is, we're casual here. Go ahead, Jim. You can.
you? Do you have a sense of whether we're gonna need to increase operational expenses this year as a result of that extra work? Or are we gonna probably be okay? Like, do you have a gut check on that right now?
Well, where it's gonna have, and we are trying to deal with this, trying to figure it out, because it's having significant impacts on our Title V program. Because we're, especially in the compliance and inspection parts of that program, we're spending a lot more time, which could potentially lead to very large Title V fee increases next year. So we're really watching the time that we're spending on that program carefully. But yeah, I mean, I think our total bottom line will be fine, will be fine, but what we don't want to end up in a place where we're having, because we had a relatively large Title V fee increase last year, and we don't want to, and we were also, because we had a pretty large Title V overage last year that we were working on paying back this year, and so trying to avoid that situation again, but at the same time, there's work that we have to do with these facilities. And there's, you know, and according to federal regulations and state regulations, the program has to pay for itself. So there's a number of kind of complications that make it difficult, but we're doing our best.
Right, and you know, we'll likely end in another deficit, which is not unusual. This is a program, if you look, you know, look back period, you know, again, it's a budget that you generate based on the future workload. When you don't know that these sources are going to be out of compliance and they require additional work and handholding at times, then it's going to increase your expected workload that is different than the original budget. And so what will happen, a deficit will occur, and you have to add that to the fees that are assessed in the following fiscal year. So it happens.
Well, we can talk more with this committee about that going forward, but we're watching it carefully.
Very, very carefully. Well, on a monthly basis, sometimes even more.
Yeah.
Weekly. So we're generating reports and.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, good questions. So next item is our investment income. Thank you, Thurston County. You're doing a great job. You know, Nicole Meggie, who is the overseer of the investments at Thurston County Treasurer's Office, really does a fabulous job. You walk into her office, she's got 5, you know, monitors, and I don't know how she does it, but she does a great job. We've already exceeded our annual budget 6 months into the year. And I hope that the trend will just continue up, so.
Well, if as interest rates go down, it probably isn't gonna keep trending up, right? I mean, that's my
Well,
opinion.
it's hard to say, you know, I'm not really
Yeah.
familiar with where all of the investments are, but they are secure.
Yeah,
So,
interest rates, yeah, the Fed might slow the interest rate increase, but I think likely still be increasing. So, yeah, I don't know, hard to tell.
Well, these non-paper investments that are, like bonds
Sure.
and secure equities, they will continue to go up.
Yeah.
Correct.
Until the other interest rates go down quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it's actually a reverse
Oh,
comparison, if you will.
Well, they're doing a fabulous job and they take their job seriously too. For the miscellaneous revenue.
You're gonna expect it.
sorry, go ahead, Randy.
You can expect it to go up. Even right now, they're talking about smaller increments of increases, but increases in the way they invest these things. They'll invest them in 2-year and 3-year packages. So in the short term, I don't see nothing but an up for on those.
We can kind of hear you, but Randy, you might want to think about dialing in with your phone because we're pretty choppy. You can just switch the audio to your phone and maybe be more secure.
I've tried that. Can somebody text me the call-in number?
Actually, that was
That's
fine.
better.
Yeah, earlier it was weird. You were on, looked like you were muted, but yet we could still kind of hear you garbled. So maybe that's.
What I was saying is right now the Fed is still going to continue to do increases, not decreases. They're going to be smaller, but they're going to continue to do it. And since the state invests in usually 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year packages, I see nothing but an upswing for our interest and our money coming in that way.
Sounds good, Randy. We like it.
I mean, and it- just as one other note, even our kind of county money market account is paying much more than a CD or a bond was, even 6 months ago. So it's
Agreed. Yeah,
pretty positive right now for sure.
It's amazing.
agreed. Yeah.
Pre-recession interest.
It's an interesting
Yeah,
one.
don't say that.
Right. So on the miscellaneous revenue, I budgeted $1,000. I'm definitely gonna pump that up next year. And why is that? When we switched over to US Bank, our credit card merchant, that we're earning some nice dividends. And what I mean by that is when employees use the credit card to get their gas purchases, times we also, travel for our conferences. There's expenditures there. There's expenditures for our computer hardware, software. You have to use a credit card. You can't send a check or warrant in. We're getting a nice rebate back on our credit card charges. We're not encouraging folks to use their credit card, but when they have to, following our personnel procedures manual, we're actually getting a nice rebate. So, and it's averaging about, I don't know, anywhere between 175 to 230 every couple months. So not that I'm going to rely on that as income coming in, but that might help our wellness program out a little bit too.
We'll be able to
So-
put it to good use.
But yes, for sure. And so you'll be seeing that increase next year, but we've already exceeded our budgeted amount. It's not a lot, but every little bit helps. That's what I look at too. For our building rental income, we have received almost half, and we have filled all of our tenant spots except for the one we're holding back on to determine its future use. But right now we're all 100% occupied. So, and that's good. So there you have it. We've collected $1,364,000 of our $3.1 million budget, so 44%.
Nice.
So any questions on revenue before moving on to expenditures?
No. clear.
Okay, we'll do a quick summary of our expenditures. For, as you know, payroll amounts to the most expensive part of our $3.1 million budget. We've expended 47% of our salaries and benefits line. We did have some savings, when we were hiring our new staff. So that's why we didn't make the 50% margin. For our non-payroll, we're, right under 50%, we're at 43%. Why is that? We've not, we're not halfway there on our computer hardware line by any means. I did speak to Chris, our IT person, this week, and he anticipates we'll be close to spending our full budget because of the layout of how he's purchasing, a new domain server, a couple laptops, So he does anticipate fulfilling that budget line. For our professional services, we're slightly under there, but in fact, I have what that represents as well. We've spent, actually, for our professional services, we budgeted $67,500. That $67,500 represents 4 different categories. It's our attorney. We budgeted 50,000 of that 67 for legal fees. We've only expended right under 10,000.
Great.
We've budgeted about 4,500 for legal services where we contract, I'm sorry.
I said that's probably lagging based on the
Yeah,
extra
I know,
work
I know,
we
but
just talked about.
I'm not holding my breath on that one, Jim, thank you. And when we serve, we recruit our local sheriff's department to serve notices to those who are being served a notice of violation. We budgeted 45 and we're right under 1,000. For our salary survey, we budgeted 5,000. We're at about $6,900 there. That's because we also did a budget, a contract amendment with them. The 67,000 also includes the strategic plan update of 8,000. We've not expended anything in that category yet. We might not during this course of this fiscal year, so that might be moved into the next fiscal year. So those are the reasons why we are underspending there. And, again, and then the way some of our bills come in, our telephone, Comcast, internet, intermedia, we'll be close with our telephone. For postage, we're getting there. We just had a big expense during the month of January with all the mailings. Insurance with Honduras, as you know, we pay that out at the early part of our fiscal year. We don't anticipate anything additional there. Wellness, we're gonna expend our 450. We got a good staff here. For public education, we budgeted 36,500 and we've spent almost a little over 28,000. And the biggest portion of that 36 was the $25,000 that was allocated for our website design. I know Dan Nelson will be sharing with you progress and how we're doing, and it looks fabulous. He's doing a great job working with our contractor. We paid out almost to 25,000. The rest of it is education and outreach for printing and attending home shows, the costs involved there. We've already just enrolled in 3 more home shows for this fiscal year. We're paying out those fees in the next quarter. Now, let's see, audit and accounting, that's a special line. We budgeted 16,000. Of that 16,000, the bulk of that is really the 2-year audit that SAO conducted recently. We only paid out $1,200, but Jeff signed a check the other day for 11,000 almost. He'll be signing another one probably in a couple of weeks. So we'll likely hit the 16,000 cost for our audit. But I must add, the ADP fee of $125 is much cheaper than the $2,300 to $2,500 Thurston County would have charged us per month. So we're reaping the savings there big time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of benefits to ADP. There's a lot more have access going online, so staff can check. So it's a lot more self-serve for information, so folks don't need to go to Lynn for as much information. And it was a lot of work to make the transition happen, but
it's there, we're there, and it's just a relief. It's really been it was the transition just right. It was something, but we're there, we've conquered, and it's running smooth now.
That's great.
Yes, so let's see what else. Really, so we've spent about 43% of our non-payroll budget of 285,000. And we're there where we should be. In terms of the vehicle purchase, staff are researching what our options are. And
yeah, well, so we are still hoping to replace one of our older vehicles this fiscal year. So hopefully that will be something that we can report back to you before long on that.
Then we typically use the master contract, the webs. Say,
Yeah, please consider doing a lease. We've been here at the county. It took me years, but I finally got them to switch over because they allowed for patrol. my county has saved millions now that we've been doing this. And they turn around and they sell them when the numbers get to the point where there's a profit and get the back for what's left over on the value of the vehicle, and you get the keep the profit of it. So consider that with enterprise. Go give it a look, please.
We're writing it down.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Thank you, Randy.
Well, and my comment is if you're talking about a new vehicle, it's not enough, so we might need to go into the equipment or wait and see how we do year end once you get a purchase price.
Yeah, we,
Thank you.
realized that was a little bit low. I mean, we'll get something, although not much for our trade-in vehicle. So, but yeah, we're looking at the options there.
We've done pretty well in the past selling our vehicles and
We've been
Applying
really
that to the-
lucky buying 2 old cars, I think.
all right, on our building.
With the miles we're driving to go, especially Chicopee.
Oh, yeah, yes. It's a good truck we got too. Good vehicle. For our building.
Yeah, but imagine when you have a company that actually, this is what's benefited us. They've kept an eye on the market, and when the market showed that the used vehicle market was up, they were able to go ahead, get rid of it, put a little bit to the credit to us after using it, and then we just have a new vehicle and continue the same payment. So, like I said,
You're
it sounds a
using
little odd.
Enterprise, Randy? It's Enterprise? is the
Yes.
company?
Yes, matter of fact, once we were able to get them to take on our pursuit vehicles, that changed everything.
Hmm.
So now we even do our pursuit vehicles that way, and we have a constant turnover in 2 and 3 years when they hit the market hits it and the value is up there to where they can wash it out and not lose anything, get a brand new vehicle for them in pursuit.
Did you go to bid for that?
Yes and no. Nobody else was doing it.
Yeah, that's what I
it
was
took a
wondering.
lot of
Who was
work.
the only kind? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, well, it may be different now, but I worked with Enterprise for a long time to try and get them to do that with Pursuit. And then finally they said, okay, we'll do a pilot program. And that's what happened. It's been extremely good for me. I was always running our cars. Some of them ran as high as 200,000 miles for our Pursuit. And we just couldn't keep up on it because it was costing us, $1 million plus a year to replace these things and keep up. Because there's 110 of them total that they had in the sheriff's department. So now we've been able to reduce all of that, and the amount of money we're spending to keep up on the lease. We have all new vehicles coming in, and we're spending less than we did for a replacement. We're falling behind and giving 200K cars.
Oh. Gosh, you guys should get a master contract for people all over the state to join in.
Yeah.
We'll have to
Okay.
follow up with you on
Yeah,
that.
that's cool. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
We'll look at all of our options for sure. All right, on the buildings, operation and maintenance, yay, we have made the final principal and interest payment on our building. So we'll be taking that line out of the budget next year. And
Switches to building maintenance.
yes. And let's see, utilities, we're pretty much on target there for the most part. Under the maintenance office building line, we had a budget amount of 18,200. And that 18,200, we were looking at doing some other work beyond replacing the floor on the tenant side. And we're not deferring the maintenance, but we know we'll be including that, if not in this year's budget, for sure next year's budget. We did pay out in flooring $9,700 of the 14,000 that we've expended so far. The other expenditures amount to our quarterly HVAC, our pest control monthly. We did have to buy a new refrigerator for the tenant side. We did purchase some small Ego landscaping tools for our grounds person, and we did have the roof cleaned as well. So that's where the difference is from, the 15,000 that's in the budget. For leasehold improvements, we still have 27,000 in the event we need to change out our 2 oldest HVAC systems. It's there. We're in the process of gathering the information we need to generate the proposal so we can go out for bid. So that's in the works. For program operations, our wood smoke bounty, You know, we're almost halfway there, but in the month of January, we paid out quite a few, and then in February, we paid out again, a lot of generated a lot of activity in that program. Earlier, I stated we will likely expend our allocation. Oh, let's see. Our monitoring equipment, Chica Peak, we're on target there. We're slightly under in our other monitoring expenditures. So our expenditures are coming in about 45%, slightly below where we should be. So right now we're sitting pretty good, both on the revenue and expenditure side. Any questions on income or expenditures before moving on to our, let's see, our fund balance sheet.
Nope.
All right. Well, this is painting a pretty picture too. We started out July 1, 2022 with a little over $2 million. When you add a revenue, subtract our expenditures, we're sitting about where we were at the beginning of the year, a little over $2 million. Following our fund balance allocations for contingency, set aside there's 864,000. For our unrestricted, it's 1,175,000. So we're sitting okay right now.
Great.
Any questions on any of the information you have before?
Very clear presentation. Thank you, Lynn.
All right.
Can I just park that when we look at the budget for next year, I want to talk about the database and where we are on a decision point, maybe after the website. That would make a natural, if we can fit it in. I don't want to be too pushy, but it feels like the next step to me.
Yeah, no, it very much.
Happening.
Okay.
Yeah, very much is, and I can at some point can give an update to you, to the board on where, because I mean, that's definitely something that I've set as a performance measure for the next year, because as we complete I think the website has been a good kind of, it's been a great and really important project, and in the next couple of months, I want to launch the effort to rebuild our database. It's going to be a relatively lengthy and expensive project, and so we need to get going on it.
Cool, thank you.
And I just, database conversions are always so sticky, but making funds for database data scrubbing as you're going through that, there's nothing worse than a bunch of garbage in the new database.
Exactly. So it's, gonna be, we need to put a lot of time and thought into that process. But yeah, we've started collecting some information. In fact, we've got a meeting, I think next week, some of us that have been working on this for the past few months. So we've got some ideas about what about directions we want to go and things. So
Good.
Great.
Mhm.
Thanks, Jim. All right, on to new business. If there's no other questions or comments for Lynn. The OLIMAP funding, is there additional costs? I don't think I saw an attachment on this, Jeff.
No attachment.
No, okay.
So,
did you want me to, so sure, I think, I mean, can give an update. Well, so, at the board meeting last month, we talked about and was given approval to move forward to spend up to $6,000 working with OLIMAP to fund this effort that they've got with the Thurston Regional Housing Council. So what, again, it was, I think, Jim's suggestion, but Lynn, I think, simultaneously had the idea, well, rather than put together an interlocal agreement or something, let's just work with the city of Olympia who is providing the Dropbox services to the camps in Olympia. And so we had a meeting with OLIMAP and City of Olympia. And so they'll essentially just be adding up to $6,000 to our bills. They're expecting to probably do the first camp cleanup in mid-March. We're currently working to put an MOU together with OLIMAP. City of Olympia will be listed on there but it's primarily an MOU just between ORCAA and OLIMAP, just to kind of put together the outlines of the agreements and provide some documentation for why we're providing this payment to City of Olympia to provide the garbage service in these two camps. So that's moving forward. I think the issue was, or one of the questions was, should we put together do we need to do a budget amendment around it? So maybe with that context, Lynn, I could hand it over to you.
yes, you betcha. So, at this point in time, what I'm proposing or we're proposing is that we likely won't expend $6,000 by the end of June 30th.
Right.
And with the first drop box mid-March, we probably won't be seeing our first bill until early April, mid-April. And we pay our bill, the city bill, every 2 months. So we may be paying anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000 in our first, $1,000 to $3,000 by June 30th, 2023. And with that, we're proposing that there doesn't seem to be a need for a budget amendment because we'll have some savings in our current budget authority allowance. And we'll add a line under program operations for Ole Map to pay that bill. And it's going to show on the budget. It's going to be a placeholder line for Ole Map's program. It'll be listed under program operations. It'll be clearly stated, and we'll include that line item in next year's budget as part of the budget approval process as well. Does that work for you?
Good.
The fact that the board has already approved this last month for us to move forward, execute an MOU, which is in draft form. It just needs a final review, and we'll connect with Ole Map, retrieve signatures, and continue to work with them on both of our responsibilities and agreements. For the
That's
MOU. Does that work?
Yeah, I have no issues with that. It seems reasonable.
Great.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, my thought is to have a special projects fund that's a little bigger, so there's a, you know, $30,000 or $50,000 threshold, given our size of budget for this, for the executive director. To me, that makes sense to be less specific. So there's a little bit of operational money for special project, but we can have that conversation in the budget.
Well, it's the next item on our agenda as well, so.
That's our next agenda item.
Yeah, so this is something that came up. So last month when we were discussing this,
Randy brought this up.
you had suggested that maybe there should just be something in the budget that provides some authority to the executive director to spend on special projects. And so certainly do that. I know, Lynn, you've got some concerns about, well, is that, how accountable is that? And is it, I mean,
We don't want to include a budget line for 10,000 or 40 or $50,000 without the expenditure part of it.
Mhm.
Just hypothetically think that we're going to use 10 to 40, $50,000 in a fiscal year without a purpose or a reason. I mean, giving Jeff contract authority is one thing, which is great. Thank you for that. It makes administration easier. We always bring these projects to you. The fact that in my 20 years being here, we haven't had much activity in that. We propose that we come to you when the time comes to talk about it, discuss it, and put it in the budget. I'd rather go through the extra work of doing a budget amendment, knowing that we have a concrete project.
or we might not even necessarily need to do a budget amendment, like in this case with Ole Map. I mean, again, so
Yeah,
it's just,
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It would be really easy to add a program operations contingency line that would be inclusive of all program operations, to me, on the expense side.
Mhm.
I will say, and I guess in support of Lynn's argument a little bit, just that I really appreciated hearing about the Ole Map project as it was going through, and it didn't seem like it delayed the process, which is, I think, the
Right.
problem that you're trying to solve with that, Jim. But I mean, if we want just clean audits, and I know, I guess it's hard for me to go against the financial recommendation to just take these as they come up. And I think we're happy to have a special meeting, even if there's something that is urgent. So I don't know. I mean, adding more contract authority to Jeff is a different thing, and that would allow him maybe to, I don't know if that would allow him the latitude, Jeff, if there is something that is really an acute need, you know, that you need to just make a decision on, you can, after the fact, you know, do a budget appropriation or what have you. I don't know the best way to do it, but I take Lynn's point, and I understand that we want to create a little bit more nimbleness for our executive director and the organization.
Well, let me just say, I had no expectation that those conversations wouldn't be part of the board dialogue.
Right.
In that, for me, it's really just an efficiency in the accounting and budget process to be. And there's different philosophies, and put as much in as you can at the beginning, so you it as often throughout the year, but that's just a difference in philosophy between people. So
Right, right.
I can appreciate it.
And I'm sorry, I dropped off because I had a call with Kilmer's office. I wanted to weigh in. You guys may have discussed this, and I apologize. Like I said, she called right in the middle of it. I'm using my phone to do it. By the way, if somebody can have a computer ready for me, I'm going to be a little late, but I'm on my way to have a meeting there. It seemed like there was a passive request from the chair, so I'm trying to make it happen. I'm driving in from Kitsap County. That's what's been going on.
Oh, we lost you after you were driving in from Kitsap County was the last we heard, Randy.
So yeah, so my apologies for that. As for having a fund, there is such a thing as an unexpended budget authority at the end of the year. That's just a rollover. If we put things, that'll still be there in the rollover if it's not used. But anything we set up where it's by advising consent for his expenditures. It just keeps us so we don't have to change our budget.
Sorry, I missed that.
I think we're some.
Did that make sense?
I don't know. I had trouble hearing you, and I'm not an expert on this. Can someone else restate Randy's idea?
Can you just say it again, Randy? Because I'm a little unclear. I think you and I might be saying.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Yeah, I'll try and slow down a little bit. Sorry about that. So we have in our regular budgets, there's always unexpended budget authority. The only thing that we're talking about, I've been talking about, is just setting up a small account that it may not be spent at the end of the year, and it's no big deal if it doesn't. It goes back into the general fund. But we won't have to adjust our budget every time if we allow for it. And we're not like giving the director carte blanche. That's not what we're doing. It still has to come with advice and consent of the board for the expenditure. We just don't have to change the budget.
That's what I'm saying too.
So it's actually very simple, and there is accountability all the way through it. It's just a fund that's available to do these type of things. And there was that discussion earlier about the excess money that we were having in the other areas. This may be a place where we can put a small amount of it. Now, I always think it's wise to have a cap and not a very extensive cap, but something realistic that it stay in the account to be used with permission of the board.
Oh, he's talking about a reserve. You're talking about a contingency reserve.
Not a reserve. It is a line for that, and because we'll use it during the year. We will be using it. A reserve you don't touch.
Yeah, but you're saying board authorization by transaction. That's more like a reserve versus us approving the budget and not having to authorize the transactions within it.
Yeah, yes and no. Advise and consent is the term I use, because this way, when he does spend money out of it or whatever, he brings it to the board for the advise and consent. It doesn't mean that he has to get our permission with everything, but he should bring anything that comes out of there to us so we know of that expenditure, because it was not something we had a discussion of.
Cool. Well, I feel like we're not saying change anything. We're all agreeing not change anything now.
Correct.
And this is a discussion you guys should wrestle with and then bring back in the
During the
budget
budget.
process. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, the budget process? Yeah, I think that sounds
Yeah.
right.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, because I think there's nuance in all three, and I would be inclined to go with what makes Lynn feel the best with the auditing process. I mean,
Mhm.
philosophies aside.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but chew on it. I mean, I think it's us here, and I'm pretty sure the board would agree too. We want to encourage the kind of out of box thinking while still, maintaining the transparency and the budget and all that. So.
Accountability and all of that. Yes, absolutely. Well, I appreciate the desire to find room for that flexibility and to support some different thinking in different ways. So great. So Lynn and I will talk, we'll chat, and then we'll bring something back, and we'll have more conversations in the coming months as we work on our fiscal year 2024 budget development.
Okay. And I guess if I'm doing a little update during the big meeting, I'll just talk about that work that you guys are taking on to bring back the flexibility.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, well, we might, we're at the end, I guess, of the agenda, except for good of the order. I do want to give folks a moment to, refresh their coffee or get anything, but anything for the good of the order?
Just to let you know, is I don't know if it made it through in my conversation, but I'm actually on my way to the meeting to be there. It seemed like we had a passive request from the chair, and I wanted to honor that. So that's why I'm coming from Kitsap from another meeting to be there.
It was overt, not.
I thought that was very overt. Yes, please be here, I think is what he said, but thank you.
It was pretty passive, but I read between the lines and thought, you know what, let's make the effort to do what our chair is asking us to do. It's a small request.
Yeah,
How far out are you, sir?
I'm probably only going to be about 2 minutes late from the meeting, maybe 4 at tops. Depends on my gas level. I got to stop to get gas, it looks like. So.
All right, well, I did send a note to Chris, our IT person, so he's working to get a laptop lined up for you. So we should be ready for you here, Randy.
Thank you. See you guys shortly.
all right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Well, this finance committee is adjourned, and we'll see you back here at 10.
Bye.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.